Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Unitarian Congregation of Men in Uxbridge. My name is Matthew Marion, Little Bill, and today I'm going to be starting off with our holiday medley. Hopefully some of you will recognize this. This will be from X-Files, Halloween, and the very famous Funeral March by Chopin.
Welcome to the Menden Uxbridge Unitarian Congregation. And the mic is on, right? Yeah. We'll pray for the dead, and the dead will pray for you. Thank you, Matt. Welcome to our Halloween medley. Welcome to all manner of creatures. And this is welcome by Christian Schmidt. No matter who or what you are welcome here. Let's be clear. Here we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters and police officers, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all varieties. Republicans, Democrats, that's that. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes and superstars. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all other manner of creatures. We had an animal blessing the other week, right? Here we welcome you and all of who and what you are. Welcome. Let us begin. So the chalice lighting is called United by Story and Bound by Love by Andrea Hawkins Camper. Gather we now into this space, this time when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. Gather we now to remember, to grieve, to prophesy, to complete our harvests before the long dark comes. Gather we now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we always have been, the voice of our people eternal. Gather we now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Gather we now, as we have always done, united by story and bound by love. If you would, please join in the affirmation of this church. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. On to more music from Matt.
So for this next one, I will absolutely need everybody's assistance for our percussion for this. And I think you know where this will actually have to go. Let's try it out right now.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah. Follow that up. Hard to follow that, but a story for all ages. And this is actually the story of where the jack-o'-lantern comes from, or one of them. It's called The Legend of Stingy Jack. There's an old Irish myth about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack. Stingy Jack was a drunken brawler who found great enjoyment from playing tricks on anyone who crossed his path. Jack also had the great misfortune of running into the devil more than once. Jack's first encounter with the devil happened at a local Irish pub within the village. Obviously, Stingy Jack was called Stingy Jack for a reason, and he wasn't about to change now in the face of the devil. Jack convinced the devil to transform himself into a sixpence piece so that Jack could use him to pay for their drinks. In exchange for this transaction, the devil would receive Jack's soul. Little did the devil know, Jack still had a few tricks up his sleeve. After changing into the sixpence piece, Jack quickly tossed the devil into his pocket next to a silver cross, thus preventing the devil from returning to his original form. I guess silver crosses do that to devils. Jack then bargained with the devil to keep his soul for 10 more years in return for the devil's freedom. The devil reluctantly agrees and Jack frees him. 10 years pass and Jack crosses paths with the devil a second time. With the devil ready to claim his soul, Jack made a last request. I'll go, but before I do, will you retrieve an apple from that tree from me? I'm awfully hungry. The devil began to climb the tree. Silly devil. And while the devil was climbing to the top of the tree, Jack carved a large cross into the back of the tree. It's that cross gets the devil every time. Again, the devil had been tricked and could not get down. Jack, being quite pleased with himself, bargained yet again with the devil, this time for the promise that the devil would never, ever try to take his soul again. With no way out of the tree, the devil agreed. Years passed, and Jack finally passes away. Unfortunately for Jack, after all of his evil trickery and horrible deeds, God did not allow Jack into heaven. The devil, still bitter at Jack and his bag of tricks, kept his word and did not claim his soul. Jack was unable to get into heaven and unable to get into hell. Where shall I go? Jack asked the devil, confused and afraid. Back to where you came from. The devil growled angrily at Jack and sent him on his way back to earth. Jack's journey back was very dark, and he begged for the devil to lend him a light to help him lead the way. The devil's not such a bad guy, huh? The devil provided Stingy Jack with a coal from the fires of hell, which Jack then placed into a turnip he had in his pocket. The carved-out turnip led the way back to earth. Since then, Jack appears every Halloween, doomed to roam the earth in search of eternal rest, leading the way with his turnip lamp. More music from the maestro.
This I'm entitling Twilight Exorcist.
told you last week that we'd have you working this week.
Oh, yeah. You got it.
I wasn't kidding. Here's our first reading, Trick or Treat by Charles Ruggles Fox, 1967. Everybody remembers this one. Again, there comes that time of year when harvest season's o'er, when witches on the wispy brooms across the heavens soar. The night is dark, as legends say, when spooks and goblins roam, when motley crews of pirates bold lay siege to every home. There comes a tapping on the pane, a face is peering in, a pumpkin head, all candle lit, with leery, toothy grin. Their battle cry is trick or treat, these rascals at the door. Who come each year on Halloween, they number by the score. A gypsy lass, a skeleton, daring buccaneers, the shyest little fairy queen, and tiny grandeliers. A ragged tramp in disarray, his knapsack on his back, a big black cat, his tail a drag with an overflowing sack. We'll greet them all who come to call and do our best to please. A lollipop or candy stick will suit such guests as these. Over to Matt.
This would be our theme from Psycho.
Here's our reading too, Jack-O-Lantern Village by Marguerite Gode. Jack-O-Lantern Village lies somewhere in between the last gray wall of twilight and the dark of Halloween. Its streets are dim and winding, its houses weirdly bright, with pumpkin lamps that flicker in yellow candle light. If you should ever find it, as children often do, you'll recognize the cauldron of witch's magic brew. You'll hear the lone owl hooting, the black cat's mournful cries, and every shadowed corner will sprout with gleaming eyes. There will be fun aplenty for all who venture there, and laughter will run riot upon the misty air. As little folks come trooping, with darkness settles down, to light the yellow pumpkins in Jack-O-Lantern Town. Now is our time for our offering. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this, and we commit ourselves together to ensure funds we collectively gather do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope. Trick or treat.
Today's offering will be Superstition by Stevie Wonder, and today I'm going to give a good try and try to sing this along as well. So, excuse me for any wrong notes. Here we go. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Merry Superstitions!
you, Matt. Good morning. My name is Leslie Cape, and welcome to our Halloween service. This morning's meditation is entitled Autumn Meditation by Elizabeth M. Strong. Please join with me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. We know the leaves are dying. We know that their blaze of beauty is a preparation for death. It is a time when we appreciate the effort of nature to rise above the ordinariness of life and death. It is a time when we visibly comprehend glory and wonder, and we worship with thanks. We feel now that the air is cold and crisp. We feel now a clearing from the skies of the heaviness of the hazes of summer. It is a time when we appreciate the crispness and sharpness of the realities of life and death. It is a time when we physically comprehend the relief that clarity and insight can bring, and we worship with thanks. We hear now the dry rustle of plants and grasses. We hear now a crackling from the earth that tells us of the withering of the fullness of life. It is a time when we appreciate approaching rest from the frantic fullness. It is a time when we hear a different voice within and know that life is settling down for a well-deserved wintering. Let it be so within each of our lives as we prepare for an autumn in our own life cycle. For we all need rest and respite if we are to understand and appreciate the rhythm of life in our soul that enables us to worship with thanks.
Thank you. This will be Moonlight Phantom.
Thank you, Matt. So welcome back. Today we're obviously celebrating Halloween, and in the pagan world and the witch world we have what's called Samhain today. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that and the similarities between Halloween and also the differences. Today Halloween is celebrated all around the world with candy, costumes, and trick-or-treaters. But all this began as a celebration for the dead to return to the living world and reconnect with their families. Halloween, which gets its roots from the pagan festival of Samhain, falls on October 31st, when the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead is believed to be at its thinnest. Depending on your individual spiritual path, there are many different ways you can celebrate Samhain, but typically the focus is on either honoring our ancestors or the cycle of death and rebirth. This is the time of year when the gardens and orchards are brown and dead. The nights are getting longer, there's a chill in the air, and winter is looming. We may choose to honor our ancestors, celebrating those who have died, and even try to communicate with them. Samhain is the ancient Celtic festival welcoming the dark half of the year, which was celebrated at the end of October. The fields are bare, the leaves have fallen from the trees, and the skies are growing gray and cold. It is the time of year when the earth has died and gone dormant. Every year on October 31st in the Northern Hemisphere, Samhain presents us with the opportunity to once more celebrate the cycle of death and rebirth. For many pagan traditions, Samhain is a time to reconnect with our ancestors and honor those who have died. This is the time when the veil between our world and the spirit realm is thin. So it's the perfect time of year to make contact with our departed loved ones. To celebrate and remember loved ones who have crossed over, you can light a candle, leave out their favorite food, or simply say a prayer or blessing. It was a commemoration of the dying year and the beginning of a new spiritual year. Its name has evolved over the centuries, and so has its meaning. But October 31st remains a night of deep darkness when we revel in the mystery with a more tangible connection with spirits on the other side. Samhain is a cross-quarter day, the days that mark the midpoint of the season. Here at the midpoint, we can really see the shift in the seasonal energy. It's very clear we're in autumn. At the equinox, the energy was still mingled with summer. Our inner and outer worlds swirling around each other, a time of finding balance between the two. At Samhain, it's clear that our inner world is overtaking our outer. Day is turning to night as we move into the dark side of the wheel of the year. This is where we leave the outer world behind. This is where the energy turns inward and things need to die on the outside in order to do that. Samhain is all about celebrating the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In the Northern Hemisphere, the leaves are dying and nature is preparing for the still of winter. It's the time of year when we pause to acknowledge the importance of death in the cycle of life, to honor the critical role death plays in our own spiritual journey. Death and rebirth is an important cycle that is seen constantly in nature, and it's also something that is mirrored within us. We are always going through our own process of shedding, releasing, and rebirthing ourselves as we travel along the journey of life. This is a time of year to honor the deaths we have all experienced throughout the year. It is a time to make peace with all the things that we have needed to let go of and to celebrate the cycle of the new. In pagan times, Samhain was celebrated from October 31st till November 1st, as it was believed spiritual activity was at its highest. This was due to the rising of the Pleiades, which would reach their highest point in the sky during this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere. The Pleiades are said to represent the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, and this coincided with the cycles and rhythms of Mother Nature too. The veil between the living and the dead is also said to be at its thinnest due to the sun's position in the deep and intuitive sign of Scorpio. Scorpio energy is all about transformation and honoring the cycles of death and rebirth. It also rules over the paranormal and our connection to other dimensions and portals. A portal is unlocked at this time of year, and what we now celebrate as Halloween is really a celebration of Mother Nature and the ever-evolving energies that live around us and through us. As you know, energy cannot be destroyed. Instead, it simply shifts from one form to another. That is exactly what we are called to honor during this sacred time. Halloween is not a night to be feared. It is a time to give just a little extra thought to the fact that we are spiritual beings that never die. Instead, we live on in different forms and in different ways. We continually recreate ourselves through the cycles of life. Whatever deaths you have experienced this year, whether it be the death of ideas, loved ones, attitudes, relationships, and so on, Halloween is the perfect time to honor this shift and to honor the new energy that will now be welcomed into your life.
Thank you. Our next one will be Hall of the Mountain King by Grieg.
Well, thank you, Matt. Before we go on to the candles of joys and concerns, notices about the life of the church. So I believe next week is going to be Walking the Labyrinth, and we'll be having a service in that regard. But then afterwards, from 12:30 to 2, the general public is welcome to walk the labyrinth as well. So depending on the weather, whether it's nice enough to set up outside or more likely in Goss Hall. We've borrowed a canvas labyrinth from Grafton Upton, and we'll be able to enjoy that form of meditation. We're also scheduled a potluck supper to celebrate the history of this church. It had its 200th anniversary last year, and we couldn't celebrate due to COVID. So we're going to have a special service on the 21st to celebrate the history, and we thought afterwards we should try to make more of a party of it, have a potluck lunch, potluck supper in Goss Hall afterwards. Please join us in Goss Hall today afterwards, thanks to the Bouchards for coffee hour. And let's see. It is time for candles of joys and concerns. For those who have something they would want to share, now is the time to come forward, light a candle.
Thank you. This candle is for my dog Rosie. She passed away this weekend, so It's a little bit a candle of sadness, but also a candle of gratitude for 10 years of friendship and love. And we're really going to miss her. And I'm doing one more. This is Candle of Joy for Halloween. This is my favorite time of year, so I'm excited to be here participating today. So happy Halloween to everybody.
Yes, happy Halloween. Boo-hoo. Mr. David, you have something to share.
This is a candle of concern. I have a few guys that I have lunch with on Tuesdays, and I called one last Tuesday. He said, I won't be able to make it. I've been diagnosed with COVID. And the next day he was going to get an infusion at the hospital. And when I get a chance here today, after things settle down, I will give him a call and see how he's doing. So this is a candle for Jim Calories. I should say welcome shops.
My candle this morning is a candle of joy and pride. One of my granddaughters received the highest score on her MCAS, and so we're very proud that she had a certificate from the school and from the governor. She's very proud. So it's a candle of joy. Oh, we don't get the number, but she's still about 11, 12, and 10, she's 9.
So the time to extinguish the chalice is here. This is a reading from Zucker Morgenstern, A Blessing of Darkness and Light by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. I'm going to ask, we do the Serenity Prayer, and then I'm going to turn it over to Matt for his postlude, Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Bach. The Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you for joining this special Halloween celebration. And Leslie and Ken, thanks for making it happen. Join us every Sunday for service on YouTube Live. Hopefully we can keep it going, or more importantly, come on down Sunday morning at 10:30. Thank you. sound like church in here.